What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a new podcast that I just had in my head. I was like, I know a couple wrestling fans like myself. I listen to a lot of wrestling podcasts, and I was like, what the fuck? Why not start my own, and bring on two of my good friends who really enjoy wrestling as much as I do, if not even more than I do. This is the Planet Wrestling Podcast. Yes, we got our name off of a name generator. So we're just rolling with it, just going with it.
Don't judge us. Don't judge us.
No, don't judge us. I'm your host, Anthony. I actually host a channel called The Knights of Horror and a gaming channel called Mad/Era. You can find me on those. With me is two very special friends in my life who I always talk about wrestling, always talk about anything pretty much. First off his name is Rob Estrada. He is the host of a channel called The Howling Hour. He also works with me on The Knights of Horror, and he's also a part of the Boo Bros. Same thing with me, part of Boo Bros. And also just a big wrestling fan.
Yeah, that's me.
That's him, man. And also with us, someone that we got to know with the Knights of Horror, someone who has been working at Queen Mary's Dark Harbor for many years now, one of our good friends. His name is Jan. We call him Rampage. So, I mean, Rampage already has a wrestling name, so it's like, so it's like, Rampage already has, I mean, we're going to be referring to him a lot as Rampage, at least me. I always call him that by his haunt nickname, but he is a massive wrestling fan as well. I think these two are probably bigger wrestling fans than I am. They're more into the indie stuff, and I'm just still getting well known into the indie stuff. The most indie I think I watch, and it's not even indie, it's mainstream now, is AEW, but I'm slowly getting into it, and I'm really excited.
Nobody uses it, guys, so
yeah, it's starting to become mainstream now though, AEW, and I'm kind of glad that there's other. I think that AEW was kind of like that path to open up the world of indie wrestling.
Yeah.
Because they brought over a lot of the guys that were in Japan, that were in the indies, just doing stuff that were really talented, and they showed them off in the spotlight, and now they're becoming household names. But basically, for starters, I mean, just because we're brand new to this show, we're gonna be talking about WWE and AEW for now. Eventually, down the line, as we get more comfortable later down the episodes, we'll add more companies like Ring of Honor, Impact, New Japan. There's probably a lot more, but those are just some of the indie ones that I know of course. But there's a lot more we'll probably talk about. But, I mean, I know for starters, next week, Rob and I will be attending, and maybe Rampage, we're going to be attending a indie show out here in Los Angeles. And we're really just going because we haven't seen a wrestling show in freaking over a year. So
yeah,
it's going to be a fun time. We'll talk a little bit about that next week on next week's episode. But this week, we're breaking down all things WWE, AEW. WWE is heavily setting up a lot of storyline for Raw and SmackDown for Hell in a Cell and NXT for In Your House. And AEW just had a pay-per-view last Sunday, AEW's Double or Nothing, which it's kind of safe to say that that's essentially almost like their WrestleMania in a way, huh? I mean, it kind of feels that way. Like,
well, it's definitely one of their big ones.
Yeah,
I don't know if that or
All In, maybe.
All In, yeah.
All In, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the Double or Nothing. I mean, if we're gonna just compare as far as like mainstream WWE, I feel like the Double or Nothing might be more closer to like a SummerSlam or even a Royal Rumble. Is that kind of the second kind of event,
right.
Whereas I think the All In is that's what they kind of like launched with, and that's the
right.
big, that was like the one that everyone was waiting for. So I think All In is probably more of the WrestleMania event of AEW, where Double or Nothing is still a very popular event, but I think it's probably second.
Right. Yeah. I agree, because Double or Nothing, obviously, they do their casino battle royale, which I think is a great idea for a thing. But they do their battle royales a little bit different than WWE does. I mean, they bring in groups of guys at a time, whereas like WWE just brings in one at a time.
Right.
They'll bring in like 4 or 5 guys at a time, and it's just basically around a lottery system. All right, number so and so is coming out, and within number so and so is this person, that person. And it's just been it's been really fun to see this company. It's going on. It's about a year and a half, about a year and some months going on now. Or
That's
almost 2
2 years?
years, huh? 2 years now.
I think in October it'll be 2 years. No,
2 years, I think. Yeah, I think you're right. AEW Dynamite, and then ironically, a new show August 13th, 2021, on my birthday. So I'm excited for that. AEW Rampage. Rampage. It's like they look like they took your name, man.
Oh no, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
But so like I said, in this show, we're gonna be talking about all things wrestling. We'll break down WWE's Monday Night Raw, NXT, and Friday Night SmackDown, as well as AEW's Dynamite show. Right now, it's on Fridays, which I think it's due to the basketball that's going on right now.
I think
so
the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs. So they moved to Friday nights just to kind of keep the show going. But it's also a great promotion to kind of hype up their new Friday night show, which is going to be Rampage. So it's a good kind of – it works both ways. But let's just jump right into it, man. What a week we've had of wrestling. There's been so much that's been going on with both sides of the companies, and I'm excited to just get into it, man, because – a lot to talk about. For starters, let's talk about WWE, man. This was also kind of a depressing week for some WWE fans. 6 superstars got let go. 6 big names got let go, that is, too.
Yeah.
Braun Strowman was a huge name. Obviously, he was main event for a long time. I don't know what it was. They never pushed him for a title, but he never got a title opportunity as far as, like, an actual run for a championship. As far as like the WWE Championship, the Universal Championship, which pissed me off. So
well, it's so confusing because he fits everything that everybody says Vince McMahon is all about. The big guy, he could talk, he was new to work, working relatively new, but he was steadily improving. So he was actually like enjoyable to watch, and he had charisma like crazy.
Yeah.
But from what I heard was what I've been reading up was that his contract was like $1 million a year.
Wow.
That he had renegotiated, but he didn't renegotiate a no cut clause like most do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when they had to cut costs,
Braun was out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a kind of a that one kind of hurt a little bit, and I'm hoping that he ends up. Everybody, the biggest joke obviously is anyone that leaves from WWE goes straight to AEW, and it's actually been most of the time, about 75% of the time, true. And we'll get to that later on because someone actually did debut this past week. A really good superstar in my opinion, really good wrestler, and I just think they just showcase his talent enough. But Ruby Riott also was let go. Obviously, leader of the Riot Squad. They did do a comeback with Liv Morgan for a little bit, and I thought that was going good as far as storyline goes. They were getting opportunities. They were getting into a lot of the women's division matches, a lot of women's division tag team matches. So, that one kind of hurt. Aleister Black. Now, that was a hard one.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, Aleister Black is such a talented wrestler. Like, I remember when I first seen him in NXT, I was like, I like this guy. I love his whole gimmick, his persona. And just how athletic the guy is, and to see him leave. I mean, we knew this was maybe coming too, though, because months earlier they let go of what's her name, Zelina Vega.
Well, that's where it gets weird, because from what I was hearing, I was reading on all my newsletters and everything that I read to catch up on the shit that I don't watch.
Right.
They had brought her back in. Like, not officially, but like they were kind of testing, like she was backstage or at the performance center or something.
Right.
So it's extra weird too, because they just spent like all this time and all this money hyping up for the last like 2 months or something, or like 4 or 6 weeks. His new gimmick, his new, like, the Dark Father
Right.
thing, and then to just cut him after spending all that. It's not like it came from heat either. That's the crazy thing.
Exactly.
Like,
I thought it was really weird. I mean, what do you think, Rob? I mean, he does make a good point. They did spend all this money, all this time to hype up this comeback for him, and they just to let him go.
The thing I think with that is I don't know anything. I haven't read anything, but I feel like there's something that we don't know about, maybe, because that's just like you're saying, they're hyping him up, kind of giving him a new kind of gimmick kind of thing, and just to let him go. I don't know, to me that just comes off really weird, because why would you if one thing we know about WWE is they're not going to invest time and try new things with you if they don't plan on keeping you, and for them just to kind of let him go is a little weird.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. But one that was weird, and her last match was actually this past Monday, was the let go of Lana. She has been working with, what's her name? Was it Dana? Not Dana Brooke. Who has she been working with lately? Naomi?
I think.
Yeah. It's Feel the Glow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Naomi. She's been working with Naomi lately in the tag team division of the women's division as well. And obviously they've gotten title shots. They've been, there was even a time where Lana was getting put through a table every fucking week. And a lot of people always made jokes that because, Rusev went over to AEW, that's why she's getting put through the table as a punishment. But they really invested a lot of time to bring her character up, as far as not only being a, not like a manager, but like actual wrestler. And
Yeah.
it was just weird to me that, I rewatched a lot of the stuff today just to prepare for the podcast, to kind of get it refreshed in my mind. They had a tag match against Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke for, number one contendership of the women's titles. And then like this week she's let go. So
yeah, that was very abrupt.
Yeah, I don't know what when it comes down to letting go of people, what the decision is, what the meetings are like, but it's just weird to me when they let go of people, like Rampage said with Alistair and Braun Strowman and Ruby Riott and Lana. Like all these four that we've mentioned so far, we're having somewhat of a storyline. We're doing tag team things, we're doing solo things, and they were getting screen time every week, and then all of a sudden they just let go. So I don't know what how that decision works, but hey.
Well, I've heard, again, this is all based off of just what I've heard, hearsay, rumblings,
Right.
There's a lot of talk about WWE potentially being sold, because all these cuts have been spread out, but there's a lot of cuts, a lot more than usual.
Right.
Like on high levels, because
Right.
you're talking office people are getting cut too.
Yeah.
And that's usually what you do if you're going to sell off a company, is you cut as many costs as you can before you sell it, so you maximize your profits.
Yeah.
So that's just rumblings, but who knows?
It makes sense. I mean, we've already saw them sell the network to Peacock,
right?
Which was like the first step of that, and then their deal with Fox, their deals with USA. So I mean, it's only a matter of time before someone gets the actual licensing rights to WWE, because we have USA has NXT and Raw, Fox has SmackDown, Peacock has freaking the network.
Yeah, they have the network.
So everything's kind of spread everywhere, you know what I mean? It's like early Marvel back in the day when they just, sold properties to like Sony and to like 20th Century and everything. So everything's kind of it's spread everywhere, but I'm kind of just curious as to seeing where this is going to go, because
the theory about it being sold too, with the recent news that WWE's been in talks with New Japan to have a working relationship, like that kind of thing, to me adds a little bit more credibility to the potential of them being sold. Because if you've got a working relationship with an international company the size of New Japan,
yeah,
that makes your company look so much more viable.
Right.
Like you can have the merchandise and everything, sales and everything are going to be what they're going to be. And you can look past the ratings and the people with negative opinions. If you can be like, look, we got this working relationship with this, well-known, well-regarded company. I mean,
that's what I thought was the smart thing about AEW, though, too. They really started doing that, crossing over with Impact and crossing over with New Japan. I believe Moxley is actually the New Japan United States champion right now, right?
I think so. I think he still is, yeah.
Yeah, and to see him actually bring that title onto AEW, it's good. It's all good promotion. It's good business because people are going to be like, what company is this? And then they're going to go take their, go check out that. But at the same time, you're cross ratings and stuff because everybody's getting, oh, he's that champion, so I want to go see what's going on over there. Oh, he's over there. Like when Kenny Omega had a whole thing with Impact, I think he won both world titles from Impact and AEW.
Well, he's holding, I think it's Impact, AEW, and AAA's world titles.
I mean, right there, like that's a good business standpoint right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because not only are you highlighting your wrestlers, but you're highlighting other wrestlers that probably don't even get nearly as much attention as these wrestlers do.
Yep.
So it's a good business decision, and all that. But back to the last of the cuts of that, we had Buddy Murphy, who had a little run with Seth Rollins, early pandemic, the Mysterios and everything. I didn't really see him after the whole Mysterio thing ended. He kind of was just in the shadows after that.
Yeah.
But they kept Seth Rollins going. And then Santana Garrett, I think that's her name. She was let go. I think was she development or NXT? So she was let go. But it always sucks to see people get let go, man. I hate to see people out of a job and all that stuff. But let's turn it to brighter news, man. This was announced a couple days ago. SummerSlam is happening in Vegas this year at the new Raider Stadium, man. That's the first time ever that an event like SummerSlam, actually SummerSlam itself, has ever been held in an NFL stadium. So, yeah, it's big news, man. I mean, they tested the waters. I believe they've held it in like baseball stadiums. I think one time they held it in a base, or is that Royal Rumble?
I mean, they've held Royal Rumble everywhere. I don't know. I don't remember them ever holding SummerSlam in a stadium like that. At least not to my knowledge. I could be missing a year, but I don't remember them doing anything like that for SummerSlam specifically in a stadium.
Yeah. August 21st, 2021 is when it's happening. I may have to buy tickets.
I'm tempted.
I know. Fly out there for the weekend, and it's going to be on a Saturday too, which it's tripping me out because usually their pay-per-views are on Sundays. So,
yep.
I feel like you're going to get more of a chance with I mean, it's SummerSlam, so people are going to show up anyway, but I mean, you're more likely to get people who are just kind of like, should I go, shouldn't I go, to go on a Saturday, because it's at the very least like me, if it's on a Sunday, I'm going to have an issue driving back or whatever, getting back for Monday the next day for work. But a Saturday, now I could leave after work on a Friday, get down there, watch a Saturday, and come back Sunday. So I think that's a smart move, especially this year, to try out something new. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely, like I said, never seen a WWE pay-per-view other than like the Super Showdowns or whatever, because they're in like other countries,
multiple different time zones.
Yeah, so I mean, you've seen them held on like Fridays or Saturdays, but like I've never seen like an event like this held on a Saturday other than like WrestleMania, which was 2 days. But I mean,
Yeah.
I heard there's talks about them going forward and doing that more often now, the 2-day WrestleMania, because it gives more opportunities for fans to come and see the event. Also, I guess they really just feel like a 6-hour pay-per-view, people are going to start losing interest. So if they do 3 hours one day and 3 hours one day, and they kind of stack the cards different, play around with that.
Well, I mean, I've been to like a WrestleMania. I've been to a few WrestleManias, and you're watching 6 hours, sometimes 7 hours on TV. But when you're there for 8, 9. I think even one year we were there for like 10 hours. So
Yeah.
I, I, I the experience, like to get the full experience is amazing. But I think it's, as far as being able to make more money and even get more fans in seats to do it the way they've been doing it over several days, I think it's smart. For me, I would be like, man, I gotta buy 2 days now, or if they hold it. I remember when they used to hold it one, on one side of the country and then the other on the other side, do something like that. But I think it's smart. I think it's cool. It's different, and I think it's worth a shot just to see, at least 1 year, just to see how you would do if you held WrestleMania, maybe 2 separate locations on 2 different days.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like the whole, and especially I think what made this WrestleMania so special was we got a year without fans. And then we had fans in the seat, and something about having fans in the seat. It's the fans that really bring the show to life. It's their reactions, their chants, everything. It's all raw and authentic, and it really brings the show and wrestling to life. Like you can even tell the superstars who performed that day were just happy to see that. Like whether you're heel, babyface, whatever it is, it didn't even matter that day because they were just happy to see people back in the stands.
Well, it's that, and it's so much easier for them to do their jobs. Like we've talked about this, I think. When you don't have fans, like almost all of your storytelling is based on what you actually can like see, the fans that are actually there.
Yeah.
Because it sounds, they pipe in sounds and stuff on TV, even when there were fans, before the pandemic and everything. When you don't have that, like, yeah, we hear all the tune. I'm sure they put in some noise for them, but that's all pre-done.
Yeah.
Like when there's live fans and you can actually read people and see what people are reacting to, it makes working a match and telling your story and your character and everything like just so much better. The energy. I've talked to so many workers that are it's without the fans, it's they can't do their thing.
Yeah.
This way.
Because you're trying to sell a story, you're trying to sell, your gimmick and everything to the fans. And if they don't react to it, or if you get no reaction to it, then it's kind of really hard. You have to double what you're doing to sell what you're trying to sell.
Exactly.
It's really about selling the story and the gimmick, and to like you just said, how will they react to this? Okay, what can I do different next time, or what can I do in the next move to get the hype up, get the crowd going, and get people interested in wanting to watch it.
And once they start getting that feedback and people start getting into the match, it makes the workers get more into the match. I mean, that's half of how Kenny Omega's 5-star matches and like all these 5-star, like you watch them and it's like if that crowd wasn't reacting, and it doesn't have to be a constant reaction, but I mean, like you watch the way the Japanese crowds are, it's like it builds and you can feel it build and it adds to the match as you get that like rumble starting to build, and then like somebody hits a big move and they kick out, and like if there's no crowd, I mean you saw that in
early pandemic.
Yeah it was just like these matches would have been great. I think one of the few good matches, and it was when they started having the like performance center crowds around the like behind the plexiglass like they still do for NXT.
Yeah.
The Buddy Murphy versus Aleister Black. Like, or that might have even been pre-pandemic. I don't remember, but like it was like that was it would have been so much better in the like you can't replicate that crowd energy.
Yeah. It really was interesting to hear wrestling in the beginning of the pandemic because it was just quiet. You actually can hear what the wrestlers were saying. You heard what the refs were saying. And it kind of like, you usually do hear that on TV, but it kind of ruined it a little bit for me. You know what I mean? It was like, well, I know they're trying to still sell what they're selling, but it's just like, it's just so much better with the fans. It
was weird.
Yeah.
Like I've been to a few indie shows, of various kinds. I think I've been to like 4 or 5 at this point.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until this last weekend, which I do want to talk about after we're done talking about the big companies. Like, it's weird when, like, I mean, these guys are doing, like, you know, hitting each other with light tubes and stuff, and like usually that would get a reaction, but like there are long periods of silence, and when you can like hear, I mean, you can hear the wrestlers, like, they are aware that you can hear them.
Yeah.
When it's quieter. So you saw it in the pandemic to a degree, what you see on the indies, which is like they do things like what Jericho's always done, where somebody will say something and then they like react to it. They say something in character back. But it was weird because like it did take away something. Like for me, I agree. Like it took a little bit of that just intangible, you know, I don't know how to even describe it.
Yeah.
It was missing something.
Yeah.
Well,
but at the same time, it was really interesting to see who adjusted and leaned into it.
Right.
And like started like Roman Reigns was a perfect example. Like when he, you know, came back and started with this whole, you know, tribal chief thing.
Yeah.
Like he was talking shit in the ring and like just straight up talking like through the match. And I was like, that actually works. Like that's smart. Lean into it instead of like just let it be. I mean, you have the crowd noise, but it's obviously not the same. You know, it doesn't hide it the way that a live crowd does.
Yeah.
It was definitely weird.
What about you, Rob? What do you think?
Well, I think for me, I guess something I struggled with, you know, first, you know, when the pandemic started was just the whole, like the way they reacted to not having a crowd. Like they were still playing to the crowd, but there was no crowd to play to, and I get it. I understand what I'm watching, but it was just like, you know, I think it took them some time. They had to find their stride, get the right footing to realize, okay, we keep doing this. And like you were saying earlier, you know, you kind of see who adapts and who's just, you know, who is sticking to the same, you know, the same old thing. But for me, I think just the natural reaction of the crowd is what gets me. And you had mentioned like New Japan, and you watch that build up, and that's not like, you know, I've been a part of, you know, crowds where, you know, they're chanting the whole time, and crowds where it's dead silent. With specifically like a New Japan crowd, it's so natural the way the crowd reacts, and something happens, and it's just a constant buildup, and it's levels and levels and levels. And honestly, the first time I ever watched like a New Japan show, it was just like the first time I ever seen a crowd be worked that way. And that, to me, to watch a wrestler work a crowd that way is amazing, and I love it. So that was one thing that I feel like I kind of missed from having a live crowd, is being able to, because even in WWE, AEW, you have those wrestlers who know how to work a crowd. You mentioned Jericho. Jericho is a master at working a crowd and playing to a crowd. And, you know, it's almost like a wave with that guy. He can control it. And so to finally watch crowds in a wrestling show on TV and stuff, it definitely I feel like it just brings back the heart of wrestling. And so I'm glad they're back. It's, you know, it's great to watch again, and it was missing something, but now I feel like that piece has been put back. So, and, you know, we're gonna fine tune it again, and then things will start to kind of flow once again, and everything will get better.
Exactly, man. You couldn't have said it better. Let's dive in to WWE this week. Monday Night Raw. Let's kick it off with the first day of the week. And if you guys are watching this, we record these on Sundays. Don't know when I'm going to be putting them out, but we'll figure out that first episode. So I'm still trying to figure out all the kinks and stuff. But we're going to start off with WWE Monday Night Raw. Let's kick it off with, I watch a lot of my WWE on YouTube. So the clips may be out of order than how the show had them. So if it's out of order, just bear with us. I'm just going off the clips of when they release them by time. Sometimes they release stuff that is later on in the show earlier. Rather, it doesn't make sense sometimes, but I'm going off what I see based on the order of YouTube. So the first thing I want to talk about, the push of Nikki Cross. For starters, I'm an old school Nikki Cross fan. I loved her when she was part of Sanity, and I loved that whole crazy gimmick that she had. Like, that was my favorite Nikki Cross. I love that Nikki Cross. To see her getting a push now, it looking like she wants a title opportunity. She wants a Raw Women's title opportunity. Last week, she had a beat the clock challenge against Rhea Ripley, and she actually I think it was Rhea Ripley who had to beat the clock, but she passed the time, so Nikki Cross won that. This last week, she did a beat the clock challenge against Charlotte Flair, and Nikki Cross again came out victorious, proving that after Hell in the after Hell in the Cell, she wants a title opportunity. And I'm for it. Honestly, I really am. I think a push for Nikki Cross is good, especially because I haven't seen anything major done with that character since she was tagged with Alexa Bliss. And that was when Bliss was transforming into like the whole Fiend gimmick. So now that you're getting this push from Nikki Cross, like I'm really for this. If they give her a title opportunity and make her hopefully a champion, we'll see. But it looks like the spotlight right now is Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. Obviously, Charlotte Flair is looking like she's going to try to tie her dad in her record. She's already a 14-time champion, so she only needs 2 more, and she ties her dad. And then after that, she'll probably be the next Flair to hold the most title opportunities, reigns, and everything. So what do you guys think about Nikki Cross with this whole beat the clock challenge and earning her title opportunity? I mean, she already beat the women's champion. She beat Charlotte Flair. What's next?
I mean, I'm about it. Like, it's.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I like Rhea Ripley. And I think her and Nikki Cross work well together. And I like Charlotte too, but I'm just kind of tired of Charlotte. It's the only thing I'm like about with it.
Yeah.
Like Charlotte's a great worker. I mean, she's a Flair. I would be surprised if she wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm about it. I did watch recap, so I did actually get to see it, at least in like very chopped up brief format. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, I like Nikki Cross, so yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes.
I'm also a fan of Nikki Cross. Honestly, this could just be me. She reminds me of maybe a darker, like a darker Mickey James almost. So I get that feeling from her. I like her. I like her style, and I think what they did with her, and I thought this too as I was watching it. I was like, they did a good job as far as building Nikki, against Rhea and Charlotte with the whole like, and still keeping them strong, with the whole like they didn't get pinned, but yet she still beat them because it was a beat the clock challenge. So I like that. I'm always a fan of like, you don't have to make someone look bad to make another person look good. You can elevate someone while elevating someone else, and it works to the benefit of both. I have an issue sometimes with WWE. I feel like sometimes they think they have to bring someone down to help someone elevate, when I think if you elevate them both together, it benefits future matches. So I think they did an excellent job with Nikki Cross and Rhea and Charlotte, and not allowing the 2 bigger ones, if you say, to take a loss, but also giving a win to Nikki Cross and going from there. So I'm cool with her getting a title shot. I hope she does. I hope she wins, because I think it switches it up. That way it's not always Charlotte who's getting the title. But Charlotte's an amazing wrestler. I think she's probably the best women's wrestler they have right now. Rhea Ripley is right up there with her. I think maybe in a few years she might surpass her, but I think giving Nikki a chance, I think it just kind of switches it up a little. I'm okay with that.
Well, I want to touch on Rhea a little bit because for those, I mean, you guys know this, but for those who don't know, I'm a huge Rhea Ripley fan.
You are.
I loved
Yes,
her in
you
NXT. I thought she was fantastic in NXT. She was well written in NXT. The storylines she had in NXT were amazing. Her matches are second to none, and she is a fantastic performer. My biggest thing, her coming up to the main roster was okay. And it's already kind of, I'm already predicting it kind of right. I talked to Rampage about this, but I'm hoping they go a different direction. They brought her up. They gave her a title shot. She won the title. She's now like the main woman on Raw right now. My biggest thing is, they give them that time to shine for a little bit, and then they kind of easily fade away. I do not want this to happen to Rhea Ripley because she is a very talented wrestler, a very talented in-ring performer, and I just don't want this to happen to her. I don't want this to happen to anybody, to be honest. Like, if there's a ton of talent to throw out there, I don't want this to happen to anybody. But Rhea Ripley is one of my favorites, and I hope that if they're planning on, taking away the title and giving it to Charlotte or Nikki Cross, I'm hoping that she'll still be in the main event picture, whether it be a tag team title opportunity, maybe she tags with someone else, or goes after the Raw Women's Tag Team title or the Raw Women's title again. I just don't want her to see her fade away because she is such a talented person, and I really like the storyline they're giving her right now. It's all going good right now, so I'm hoping the future for Rhea Ripley's good.
I'm trying to think of like who else would be like put in those kind of positions on Raw, at least. I mean, their roster is not very deep right now on the main roster.
It really isn't.
And there's nobody that they can really move from NXT that wouldn't leave a gap in NXT.
Right.
Now, that's not to say they wouldn't do it anyways, because Lord knows we've seen plenty of times where they've done stupid things and moved people up when they shouldn't have, or moved people up before they're ready. But I'm cautiously optimistic that because that would lead, like if they faded her out, I mean, they could fade her out a little bit and just, change things up. But I don't think they would at this point fully,
Yeah. I think she's got a lot of momentum driving her away right now. So she's got I think a few years to keep that momentum going. And I can see her actually being like one of the top stars in Raw right now, you know what I mean?
The real test is going to be she's been on the main roster in front of fans now once.
Right.
Going forward with them starting to run live shows again, that's going to be the test with how the crowds react in person.
But she was a huge hit because she was doing in-crowd stuff at NXT, and I know that's a smaller audience, but she was a big hit in NXT when there was crowds too. So I don't doubt in my mind that if people are fans of that and they know who she is, she'll kick it off with the fans when they go back on the road.
Well, they've done a good job of presenting her and presenting her as legitimate. She hasn't had any bad matches on the main roster on Raw. It's just going to come down to the smaller live crowds and the live crowds of NXT and NXT UK from before the pandemic.
Right.
Those, at this point, it's far enough out in people's minds, in most people's minds, that it's one of those weird situations. It's long enough ago that a lot of people, just because of like the fatigue of the pandemic situation, it feels longer ago than it is, but it's not so long ago that it's like easy to look at for most people, like, early WrestleMania or the Attitude Era, where it's like those were products of their time. And so you can bypass like, certain things and forgive certain things. It's just kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
Because in that weird gray area where it was just, year or two before the pandemic, and she wasn't a big star. So it's like, now that she's been presented and people know her and she's a, known name and a known commodity, when there are live fans, is she going to be able to retain that? Is she going to be able to continue to connect? I think she is. I don't see any reason why not.
Yeah.
Because I'm not quite as big a fan as you, but big fan of her too.
She's probably my favorite, and I could say this in a heartbeat, and this goes a long way because there's a lot of talented, and I'm talking, early 2000s, 90s, there's a lot of talented women's wrestlers out there, but she's probably my favorite that I've really connected to. I feel like in a weird way I can relate to her. I mean, her style, that kind of, that like outcast kind of punk rocker, I don't give a fuck, it's my way or the highway kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, she just goes out there and tells it as it is, and I really love that style. And you haven't seen that kind of style because, back in the day when they presented a lot of women, the one I could think about the most that it was probably a big influence on that character was Lita. I mean, Lita was that kind of style where she was that tomboy, I'm going to fucking do a swanton off the fucking rope kind of thing, you know what I mean? And all this stuff, so she's kind of like the modern day Lita, but in her own style, she's her own person. Like, no one's going to look at her and go, oh, that's a ripoff of Lita. No, she's doing her own thing. She's got her own kind of attitude, her own way of doing things, and she's, like I said, she's a phenomenal in-ring performer. So I'm excited to see where that goes. Now, here's a team that I want to talk about that also has been getting a lot of buzz lately. RK Bro. This is one team I never thought I'd see team up, but it has been interesting to watch. But they've been dominating lately. They've been winning matches. It looks like they're trying to slowly make their way up to a tag team title fight. And I could see them as tag team champions for a little bit. They'll have a little run, I think, coming soon. It's kind of looking like it's building up to that. But it was interesting this week because Orton fought Woods, and it was just a regular match. Riddle was out there to kind of support Randy, and the finishing move, Orton actually used Riddle's finishing move on it, which I thought was funny. So it's seeming like we're seeing more and more every week of them. At first Randy wasn't for it. You see he was annoyed by it, but it seems like every week he's starting to get more and more kind of liking this guy. It's like we kind of vibe good together.
Well, it's the like mismatched partner, but not as like overtly mismatched. Like they're still similar enough in general that it doesn't clash in the wrong way.
Right.
And I mean, Randy's a great worker and Riddle's a great worker. And Riddle, the problem, I didn't really see him watch too much of his NXT run. Like I did a little bit, and I saw like the takeovers, some of his takeover matches and stuff. But his gimmick on the main roster, like, yeah, it's his personality. Because I've seen like shoot interviews, or not shoot interviews, but when he was in MMA still,
right,
just post MMA. It's way. I mean, it's not like the whole stoner like implications, like the implied stoner shit that they've done with him on the main roster is like what they did with RVD, but like times a million.
Right.
I feel like from what I watched on the recaps and what I've been seeing with this program with Randy, it feels like they're taking him back more toward what he was on the indies, and like using Randy to like, Randy's warming up to him, but he's kind of also coming down toward Randy and coming down toward being a heel.
Right.
And like being more serious. I mean, in the matches, it's the same strong style MMA influence style that he's always had, but it's like his character is finally starting to match his ring style.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it. As much as I love like everybody, all the other tag teams and everything, and I liked what I've seen from them as time's gone on.
Rob, RK Bro, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like WWE does a pretty good job with mixing people who don't seem like they'd go together and it making it work with whether it just be I think it has to do a little bit with two of these things, and one is they're obviously giving them a push, and so that's going to help, but I think more than that, I think it's both their personalities and their charisma in ring and out of ring work together, but in different ways. Like you're saying, like Riddle's, he's more like that chillax kind of dude, and hey, and Randy Orton's very like serious, methodical, and I almost see it as a like he's like almost mentoring him, like, hey, this is, watch me do this, and you got it from last week and this week's episode where Randy's just kind of like, hey, like when he's gonna do a move and he's making sure Riddle's watching him, and I like kind of the story that they're both telling with each other, and I think I'm all for it. I like it. It's two things that don't go together that they made work, and again, I feel like it has more to do with obviously Riddle. He's his personality works, but I think Randy being the in-ring seasoned veteran and telling the story of I'm going to kind of show this guy the ropes, and I'm warming up to him, and standoffish at first, but now I see what you can do. I see talent, and let's work together, kind of thing. And I think Randy's doing an excellent job kind of putting that out there like that. I like it.
Yeah, it's been fun watching them grow together and stuff. One I'm just gonna talk about real quick. Not too much happened. I think it was just the most interesting thing was guy versus girl situation, which was Reginald versus Shayna Baszler. That was an interesting match as it is. Obviously, there's been some kind of feud there between Baszler and Reginald with her teaming of Nia Jax. It's looking like they're going to start separating now, though, because Nia Jax is kind of favoriting Reginald, and Baszler, which I'm going to talk about later, is looking like she's going to start a feud with Alexa Bliss, which we'll get into a little bit later. Mason T-Bar, man, this has been a team that I've kind of been watching closely ever since their departure from, what was that group they were, that
Retribution.
What was it, Retribution? Yeah. That was like a short-lived thing. I don't know what was going on there, but
they were so getting that right too.
They were. It was getting good because I like the whole aspect of like Mustafa Ali was like the secret leader. When he was revealed, it was like, oh shit, like this guy from being a nobody to being a leader, And
it was right before they revealed him as a leader was when they made the misstep that led to everything else, though.
Yeah.
Because when they took away that like anonymity and like them just being this faceless force, like you could tell there were other wrestlers. That was when it just, I was like, I still liked it, but it became harder and harder to like justify liking it.
No, it's I've been watching them. It seems like little by little they're moving up in the tag team division.
Well, they're great in the ring.
They are. They really are. They're really good in the ring, and I would love to see them have a tag team title run down the line, to see what they would be like, because I think they would be dominant as tag team title championship. You know what I mean? So I really would like to see where that goes.
I'm really surprised with was it Mace? I forget his real name, Dio Madden, I think,
right,
or something. Like he looks pretty good in the ring for not training for all that long. Like I think it's like he's been training like two years, something like that.
Right.
And
you know more than anyone, because I know. Little side note, actually, Rampage every now and then trains with another one of our. You haven't trained. Have you trained at all though? You haven't been. It's been a while, huh?
Trained. I've done, but I've been involved with. I've got my toes in the water.
Well, I mean, I'll call it a light training. How about that?
Yeah, well, I'm self-trained.
Yeah, self-trained. I mean, you're kind of, but you know the basics, you know things, and you're learning as you go. But I mean, you've been in the ring and you've kind of ran the ropes, and we're doing some
taking
drills.
Bumps.
Yeah, you're doing drills.
Nothing crazy, but I'm taking bumps.
Yeah, but I mean, if anyone knows in ring stuff, it's gonna be you. You know what I mean? Like you're starting to learn it.
I know the psychology, and like I mean, that's what everything boils down to. Good matches, the psychology has to be there, whether it's even if you're not a good like athlete. Like you watch like mid 80s, early 90s WWF stuff, and there are a lot of guys who weren't the greatest athletes in the world. I mean, the guys who were far better workers ultimately. I mean, guys like Hogan didn't need to do like top rope moves because he figured out that he could get the same kind of reaction by telling the story through, a handful of moves and through his reactions to other people's moves and, selling. It's all about the selling because that's what you tell the story through.
Well, same thing with Andre the Giant. He was just a giant, so he didn't have to. Just him being in the ring was just, oh, look at this giant fight. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, and you saw that later in his career as he, started having his health issues related to his gigantism. He was still putting on entertaining matches. Were they 5-star matches? No, but they were still entertaining.
Yeah.
Like, if you go by the 5-star, like how many, how athletic was it? Were they doing hold for hold? Moonsaults, off the top rope to the outside. No, obviously it's not 5-star, but the storytelling was there. His selling was there. As a big guy, it was, as a giant, it's all about when you're that size, you have to do that.
Yeah.
So the like smaller guys who can't do that are still not going to be entertaining.
Yeah. What do you think, Rob? Mace and T-Bar, future tag team title match?
Yeah, eventually. I think, I think right now, I think they have potential. I don't know if they've reached it yet. I think within, I want to say a year and a half, I could see them having a long-term title run. But right now, I think they're good. And I don't say this in like, oh, this talent, these people have more talent than these team or this person. I think right now they're in the middle of the road tag team, but that doesn't mean they're not good. I think they're good. They have potential to be top tier talent. I just think right now they're somewhere in the middle, and I think it's going to take a year or two for them to kind of elevate to be top 2 or 3 teams in WWE as far as tag teams.
Well, I think for them, a lot of what it's going to depend on is how well they can get away from the stigma of being attached to Retribution.
Right.
Because it left such a bad taste in so many people's mouths. I think, I watched their match. I watched the clips of their match this week. And like I said, they look good. It was, they're solid in the ring. I mean, Dominic Dijakovac is a great athlete, and Dio Madden, I mean, he was a pro athlete before he ever started wrestling training. So they're going to have that solid base, and they're both good storytellers in the ring.
Right.
The one thing that's going to continue to hinder them potentially is if they don't get away from, like, they can keep the aesthetic that they have with the face paint and the all black tights. That's fine. Like, they can try and, be, I guess, not a more athletic road warrior, but you know what I mean? Like, they can keep, like, they're big guys. They're, very, athletic looking. They can keep all that stuff, but like the names alone are going to, like, if they don't get rid of it, if they don't go at least to something new. Like Mace, you could even keep. Like, I could even argue that would be decent.
Yeah.
But like T-Bar, like,
yeah,
like that's not. That's the one thing that I'm worried about.
This is gonna be completely off topic. I have to just say this and get this out there because this is what I'm feeling right now. But I'm honestly having a good time doing this. I really am. I like talking about wrestling. Like, I don't get to do this a lot with a lot of people, but it's a fun time. I'm glad we decided to. I'm glad you guys were down to do this.
There's few of us. We have to band together.
I know, right? I know.
Absolutely.
Humberto Carrillo, how do you say his name? Carrillo?
Yeah, Carrillo,
I think. And Ricochet have looking like they both are going to be getting a U.S. title opportunity at Hell in a Cell. This week, Sheamus pretty much called out anyone who wants to face him. and Ricochet answered the call. And Humberto came out and distracted Sheamus, and Ricochet got the win off of him. So afterwards, Sheamus challenged Humberto to a match, and Ricochet did the same thing for Humberto. Pinned him. They both pinned the U.S. champion. I'm thinking triple threat match at Hell in a Cell. What do you guys think?
I think so. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think good way to set that up. I mean, I mean, I just have to say, I love Ricochet. I've loved Ricochet for a long time. I think
Fantastic performer.
The dude is amazing. I've seen him do some crazy stuff, and I want him to get a push so bad. So
U.S. title's the first start right there, man. I'm down.
Yep.
I mean, I got to see him perform live at NXT TakeOver War Games when they were here in Los Angeles, and that match was just fucking like I've always wanted to see a War Games match, and when I finally saw that, I was blown away. Like the performers that were in it, you had the Undisputed Era, you had Pete Dunne, Viking Raiders, and Ricochet. And it was just a phenomenal match. I mean, he jumped off the top of the damn cell, you know. Yeah, dude, it was freaking awesome. And I remember actually like cheering for him holding up my title, and he like legit pointed at me. And I was like not like up there, but if you've been to the Staples Center, I was like in the premiere section with like the purple seats. So I was in that area, and he like pointed at me at the end, and I was like, "Thank you." But it was a good time. Speaking of Hell in a Cell, Eva Marie, she has been cutting promos. She left the company a while back, or she was let go. I don't remember what it was.
I think was it that she left? I thought they let her go, but you could be right. I think she probably left.
But she's been making a killing on social media, obviously. I think she has her own like design company or something like that, or she designs stuff.
She's got her fitness coaching,
and then I think she's partnered up with. Doesn't she have like that sports drink Rain or something like that?
Yeah, so she's been getting around doing fitness things and all that. So she's been getting around, but she's returning. I'm theorizing Monday night after Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I can see that.
In time to set up a storyline for SummerSlam.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
I mean, we haven't even gotten usually around this time, which was kind of weird to me. Usually around this time is Money in the Bank, and then it's big setup for they take that month off, and they usually set up for SummerSlam. But Hell in a Cell is usually an October pay-per-view, and it's gotten moved to June now. So I'm a little kind of confused by that, but they know what they're doing, so I'll let them do them.
Or do they?
Or do they, you know?
I think some people know what they're doing.
Some people do, right?
I think everybody knows what they're doing, except they're not talking to each other.
Exactly. Everyone's doing something, and then they're like, wait, I was going to do this, and you're doing this? Okay.
Okay, we'll just both do it then.
Throw it all out.
Lana's last match, Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose, we did talk a little bit about this. It's looking like Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose want them tag team titles. They want to take them away from Natalya and what's her name? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Is it Naomi? It's not that.
No,
Naomi.
it's Superfly Snuka's daughter.
Tamina.
Snuka. Current tag champions right now. I think they've earned it after a long time of Natalya's been getting opportunity after opportunity, and they finally gave her a title after so long.
She's been with the company for what? Geez, like 10 years now, almost.
Yeah.
That?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, dude, it's been a really long time. But I'm glad to see them, especially Snuka. Her dad being Jimmy Superfly Snuka, Natalya's uncle being Bret Hart, her dad being what was her dad's name?
The Anvil.
Yeah.
Yep.
Them two obviously keeping that kind of Hart tradition going in wrestling. I mean, you got a Flair still, you got a Hart, you got a freaking Snuka still. I mean, the bloodline, Roman Reigns with his bloodline and everything, the Usos, Samoan wrestling has always been a big thing since the as far back as it goes.
Yep.
To see them be tag team champions kind of made me happy. Even though they're kind of the heels right now, it was good to see them rewarded after so long.
Yeah, I mean, they're both great workers. Tamina's maybe a little rougher, just that's the way
that's her style.
Yeah, but I mean, they're both good workers. I've always liked Tamina. I never understood why they didn't feature her more. Like, I would take her a million times over Nia Jax. I used to be a pretty big fan of Nia Jax, but I would take her over Nia a million times over.
Right.
As far as like the
powerhouse women.
Yeah, I agree. Cedric Alexander defeating Shelton Benjamin. Thumb to the eye, man. That's always a big famous move. If the ref's not seeing, throw a thumb to the eye, and they're blinded for the whole damn match, you know. And I personally love when they sell those too. It's so dramatic, but it's so great, dude. I love it.
It's so old school.
The thumb to the eye, and then Cedric hit his finisher, defeating. So this has been an ongoing rivalry since they departed from the Hurt Business. I thought they were on the same page after that, but then after that, they started feuding to see which one was better. So this has been kind of an ongoing rivalry. I could honestly see this maybe going out till Hell in a Cell, and then after Hell in a Cell, probably dying down from there. But
yeah,
not too much to really talk about on that one.
I have a feeling that that's going to end up on the pre-show if there's a pre-show.
Yeah, that would be a pre-show match. That's more like it. AJ Styles and Omos, man. This guy is a fucking powerhouse almost, dude. This guy is like, it was funny because I was watching the thing and Jackson Riker was in, and the commentating team's like, he doesn't realize the Sasquatch is right behind him. I was like, no fucking shit, dude. They had a tag team championship match with Elias and Jackson Riker, and this is where we saw the end of Elias and Riker. So we're gonna see maybe a little feud going on there. But what do you guys think about this powerhouse between AJ Styles and Omos? It seems like Omos is doing most of the work right now.
Now, which I understand that because AJ's getting toward the end of his career.
Yeah,
he's kind of there to set up
to sell it and everything. Yeah, I mean, because he's such a household name at this point.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I've watched his whole, ever since he was in TNA, like.
WCW too, man. He was back there back in the day, dude.
Tail end of the WCW, people forget about that.
Yeah.
I've always liked AJ Styles. He's at least in ring. TNA did some weird things with him. Right. But who didn't TNA?
Yeah. Even his run in Japan, dude. His Japan run was great too.
Yeah. Japan Bullet Club,
Bullet Club, yeah, dude. You cannot not talk about Japan and not mention the Bullet Club. Like, that's what.
Like AJ Styles, like him. The original is obviously
Devitt,
Finn Balor, Prince Devitt. But AJ Styles, like, I'd argue that, like, everything that came after that has kind of been like very up and down, but they kind of just kept going up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They never took him off the spotlight. He's always, if he's not a Universal or WWE champion, he's got some title, and they're keeping him relevant. They're keeping him because they know he's such a good talent that if they were to lose him, it would be a big hurt on the business.
Oh yeah, that would. If he went anywhere else,
AEW would probably snatch him.
Oh yeah, well, that would be perfect for them. It makes the most sense. Like,
yeah,
Bucks and everyone,
the whole Bullet Club reunion right there.
Like, they could do reunions, they could do
rivalries.
The
Good Brothers are there. They're at Impact, but they've been doing some AEW stuff lately with the Bucks and everything, and Kenny Omega. So,
but
it'd be great.
But going back to WWE and him, man, I know he's still a little green, he's still a little rough, but almost looks good in the ring.
Yeah,
especially for a big guy.
Yeah,
like he doesn't look clumsy. He looks a little not stiff in the sense of like the wrestling term stiff. He's still a little bit. He's not fluid.
Right? Yeah,
like he's got a little bit of that, but he's for how relatively short and how big he is, how relatively short he's been training. Like I'm all about this. I'm liking the team. It's the perfect little guy, big guy team because you have someone who's like AJ doesn't have to do the work because he's got this giant, but when he does have to do the work, he can go and put on great matches still.
Yeah.
I think this, and I'm one of those people who just like, this reminds me of something else kind of person. And this reminds me, I'm not going to say better or worse, but just a different version of like Sean and Diesel
100%.
variation. So I like it. I think AJ is doing a great job with Almost, as far as I think this is something that's actually more like a real life kind of like mentorship, or kind of AJ showing him the ropes. And I think he almost, you see raw talent. And like you were saying, like the fluidity isn't there yet, but you can see, I would say, I don't know if it's, I wouldn't say like week to week, but maybe every couple weeks, month to month, you see his progression, and you see him kind of unlocking his talent. Like, okay, he's got this. So I hope they keep them together for a while, even if they let Almost kind of do his a singles run by himself. But I hope they keep them together, because I like them as a team, and I think they would dominate as like a tag team. So I'm like, these guys work good together.
Exactly.
Well, they have natural charisma together. That's good.
Yeah, they really are a good team, and especially AJ Styles. Kind of, it looks like almost as, you know, he doesn't care about the title. Is AJ Styles has the titles, and it's almost like that kind of when they did Miz and Mizdow kind of thing, where Miz had both titles, and you know, but you know, this was a more serious take on it. But I'm liking what I'm seeing from them.
Like AJ's so funny, and then you like just naturally, and then you have like Almost, who's like always just the big, you know, intimidating muscle, and then like every now and then he just says something and you're like, oh shit, this guy's got charisma. Like this guy's actually funny. Like,
yeah,
but he's still the straight man. Like it's the perfect, like it's like Laurel and Hardy. It's great. I love it.
Let's move on to Alexa's Playground, man. This week's episode featured the guest spot of Reginald, but was cut short because Shayna Baszler knocked the motherfucker out, was not done with him. That was hilarious to me. But Shayna Baszler is looking like she wants to start a feud with Alexa Bliss, and I'm all for it. I know, Rampage, you're a big Baszler fan.
I love Baszler.
Me and you have talked about that a lot. She's a great in-ring performer, former MMA fighter. She actually came up with, you know, Rousey and all them. You know,
she's part of the Horsemen.
4 horsewomen of MMA right there, man.
Yep.
So to see that kind of go right now with Alexa Bliss, with her character obviously being the female version of the Fiend, but kind of her own take on it, which I really like. I'm excited. I hope they have a Hell in a Cell match, you know, at this pay-per-view, and I really want to see what's going to happen with this one, because I think this could be a good one.
I want to see them evolve Alexa's, like, whatever you want to call it, her Fiend.
Yeah.
I want them to evolve the look for her matches more.
Right.
Because my only problem with it, like, I know some people didn't like the Mania stuff with Bray and the post-Mania stuff with Bray. I have no problem with it. I liked it. You know,
it was a good shock, because I remember I think we all watched it together.
Yeah.
And it was a good shock, because you're like, okay, this whole time she's been worshiping the Fiend. It's fucking WrestleMania time, Wyatt versus Orton. You know, she has this dramatic come out. Bray sees fucking Alexa come out as this whole new character and is just mesmerized by it. And then Randy Orton hits the RKO and pins him 1, 2, 3. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, what's happening with that? So I think WWE is keeping this kind of story open, because I think whether it be during Hell in a Cell or SummerSlam would probably be the more thing. I'm thinking Bray Wyatt's going to come back and kind of have questions and be like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope that when he's back, because I know he's been taking a sabbatical for mental health reasons.
Okay.
Because he's still dealing with the death of Brody Lee.
Oh, dude.
That's still recent enough that totally understandable.
Yeah. Well, they were close too. I mean, even I remember watching an interview with Bray Wyatt. He goes, at the time when he was Luke Harper, he was out for a little bit, and someone asked about the Wyatt family. He goes, Luke is the Wyatt family. Without Luke, I can't do Wyatt family. He goes, he's the reason why the stories are good and everything, and he brings that creepiness. So he's like, Luke is Wyatt family. Like, I'm obviously the voice of the Wyatt family and the face, but Luke is a big part of the Wyatt family, and without him, it's just there's no Wyatt family.
Yeah, and I really hope that he's doing better, and I've been there. A lot of people have been there before, so I totally and I really hope that when he comes back, when he's gotten into a better place and everything, I hope that they continue to develop the story,
right?
And it doesn't just move on to something else and move the Fiend on without getting some form of closure to the whole Alexa Bliss thread. Yeah. I think that's why they are doing it the way they are, but
yeah. Rob, thoughts about this storyline going with Shayna Baszler and Bliss?
I think it's cool. I've watched Alexa Bliss for years, her kind of come up, and I think she's one of the wrestlers where I've seen her grow. So I'm a fan of her in ring, and I'm not the hugest fan of her version of the Fiend kind of thing. I honestly wish, I wish it would be kind of she plays it straight, like regular Alexa Bliss, and then it's complete opposite, as opposed to, I feel like right now she's somewhere in the middle, and that's just kind of, I mean, that's just my take on that. I feel like she's in the middle, and I would actually like her to be more Alexa Bliss, and then she flips the switch, and then it's her version of the Fiend. But little gripes. But as far as Shayna Baszler, I think she's awesome. I love her style. It's funny. I went to a SummerSlam where her Ronda and I forgot Roderick Strong's wife or whoever, they the four of them were there. They were pretty much sitting like right across from us, and it was pretty cool to see them all there. And I watched a show with her at like an indie show. Because her and Rhonda would always go to this indie show that we would go to, and we would see them on a kind of regular basis. So I've been a fan with her. She's, at least in my experiences with her, she's super cool. I love the way she puts in. She's another person that I see like she's kind of transitioned really well into the wrestling world. And I think her style, honestly, I feel like she adapted, that kind of MMA style better than Ronda did. And
right.
she didn't get, I don't think she really got any love for it because everyone was focused on Ronda. But I think Shayna's done an amazing job transitioning. And I feel like she has, her ceiling is really high, and she's not hit it. I think she can get better, and I think that, and not to say like she's not good now, because I think she's really good now. So I just look forward to seeing more of her, and I think them together, Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler, having a match. I think just based on kind of my knowledge of what's going on between them, I feel like there's going to be some kind of stipulation. So I think that, and that'll play into it too. I think that'll be good for both of them. So I'm excited for it. I think it'll be a good match. I think both of these ladies can go in the ring, and they have good, the way they, I don't want to say act, but just their charisma in the ring will play out very well together.
Yeah. I mean, going back to Rhea Ripley, I think this was one of the reasons why I like the two so much. Back in NXT, they had a good rivalry with the the whole women's champion, and when Rhea finally won it from Shayna Baszler, that was a huge thing. So back, just seeing that, it's good. And I'm gonna be honest, when Baszler first came to the main roster, and then teamed her with Nia Jax, I really didn't like the direction they were going with her character because Baszler, I mean, she kind of kept to her character of being this badass and everything, which I really liked, but I wasn't a big fan of that direction going. But now it seems like they're kind of stopping the tag team, and Baszler's going to go back to being a solo competitor, and seeing her go back to like fighting like Alexa Bliss and stuff. I'm excited to see her get back to her roots of her being this badass. Like I said, she's never lost that area of her being a badass. It's just, I think when she teamed with Nia, they kind of toned it down a bit, and it kind of made her a little soft, but not. She was still the same Shayna Baszler, but just a little softer.
Well, she reminds me a lot. I think the reason I like her is because I was a huge Ken Shamrock mark.
Right.
Like, I loved Ken Shamrock during the Attitude Era. I mean, the first year or two, my brother and I were backyard wrestling, I used to use an ankle lock just because I loved Ken. It was around when Kurt Angle had started using it, but I as much as I like Kurt Angle, it was because of Ken Shamrock.
Right.
The problem is I could see it going in a similar direction where Ken Shamrock had a lot of potential. I mean, he had the MMA, the martial arts background. He had a pro wrestling background, which people forget. He was a pro wrestler even before he was really a like professional MMA fighter.
Much like Lesnar too, pro wrestler, and then he got into wrestling, then UFC, and then back to wrestling.
Yeah. And I've always loved that style, whether it was Shamrock, Lesnar, you see it with Josh Barnett, Matt Riddle.
Yeah.
But Baszler specifically reminds me so much of Ken Shamrock just in how she wrestles. Right. And when they put her with Jax, it was like, okay, fine. It's the monster heel and they don't get along, and she's the badass heel. So like, obviously, they're going to get along for necessity's sake, but like hate each other. But then it was inadvertently comedic.
Yeah.
But that was it's weird because Baszler was always like the one rolling her eyes and like whatnot. But Jax just is one of those guilty by association, I think.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's how it came off. It wasn't necessarily that she looked weaker or soft. It just, Jax looked so bad. And then Jax was also getting all the heat for hurting fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Like, and Jax is so immobile in the ring anymore. Like, I'm a big guy. I'm not saying it out of a problem with, Rikishi, we've had tons of big guys and girls that could move in the ring, Bull Nakano. But when it's affecting how your mobility, like not mobility, but like when it's unsafe.
Yeah, you're affecting the safety of not only yourself but other wrestlers. It becomes an issue.
Yeah, and it's not one of those things where it's like, I think she should be let go or anything. Like, obviously I don't want that to happen to anybody, but it's like one of those things where it's like, you need to learn to work around it if you're not going to change that,
Yeah.
So I think separating the two of them is going to do good for both of them, but especially for Baszler, because she just won't have that like hanging over her head,
Right. Because of time's sake, I'm gonna just announce this right now. We'll talk about NXT, and then this will be a 2-part episode I'm just gonna figure out. I'm still working out the kinks of formatting this and everything, but we'll talk about NXT, and then if you guys are watching this episode, the next day we'll put up part 2. That way it's back to back, so you can watch it. But the next episode we'll talk about SmackDown, AEW. And I know Rampage wants to talk a little bit about the indie show he went to, so. We're going to finish off Raw here, and then we'll talk NXT, and then tune in tomorrow, or it might be already up. We'll talk about SmackDown and AEW, but I promise you we'll format this better. We're still just trying to figure out the kinks. I think
it's in a work in progress here.
It's a work in progress. That's how pilots go. But I think we'll just start focusing on certain storylines rather than the entire episode. We're just trying to get you guys caught up. If you guys are listening for the first time or watching wrestling for the first time, what storylines are going on. So then next week we'll just focus on certain ones we want to focus on. The last thing we'll talk about Drew McIntyre defeating Kofi Kingston to face Bobby Lashley at Hell in a Cell. This was a big match because if the Hurt Business interfered, Bobby Lashley was going to get 90 days of suspension without pay. So Drew McIntyre, came through. Kofi Kingston, obviously, top rope, jumping off. McIntyre hits him with the Claymore, and it is the end of the match. And then at the end, Bobby Lashley comes out, kind of shows off his title. Drew McIntyre talks his shit, and then end of the show. So we got one of our main events set for Hell in a Cell. I would like to see this match be inside the cell. It would make sense. I think a lot of the title matches, I mean, the pay-per-view is called Hell in a Cell. I would expect almost every match to be inside Hell in a Cell, but I at least the big titles should be defended inside Hell in a Cell. It makes the best sense. But what do you guys think, man? I mean, Drew McIntyre obviously has been at it for the WWE Championship now for some time, and he's continuing to go. I think, honestly, he had a really good title run, and I really liked him as champion. Obviously, there's always the talk of what he was like in the past compared to what he's like now, a big change. So I'm liking the new Drew McIntyre, and I'm liking this whole, Scottish psychopath kind of thing, and, just the way he moves in the ring. This guy, you could tell this guy's super fucking athletic. So what do you guys think about this?
I love Drew. I wasn't super huge when he came in, like originally, but he did a really good job. He had the whole, it was obviously not punishment wise, but it was reminiscent of Triple H, where, it was a little different because he went elsewhere to really hone his craft.
Yeah.
But he's had a hell of a career arc to get back to where he is, and did a hell of a job reinventing himself. And he's a great athlete. He's got a good mind for how matches need to work. I mean, when you can go from working, Brock Lesnar to like the people he's been wrestling, to working Kofi and still having great matches with both.
Right.
Yeah. I'm high on him. I hope it's in the cell, just to give it that extra, like, with how much they've been butting heads for what, like 2 months now.
Yeah.
And even before that, it just needs that little extra thing for me to be particularly interested in it.
Right.
It's neither guy's faults. That's, the booking. Yeah, I mean, I'm about it. I don't know if who I would want to win in terms of thinking long term, but I mean, I'm fine with either one winning ultimately. I'd say I don't think I'll be like upset.
Right. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, as far as who I would want to win, same thing. I don't have like a dog in the fight. I mean, if you would say, but I do think I think it's got to be in the cell, and the Hurt Business definitely going to get in the cell somehow. So, and that will either help, it'll help Lashley's cause as far as retaining his title, or it'll make Drew look stronger. And if he wins, so I'm okay with that happening. I like him ever since he's come back to the WWE. I remember when he was first here, and I think I did Vince like dub him like the chosen one or something like that. So, he's had, kind of that aura around him where, you've seen it back then where, this guy's got something, this guy's got the talent, and, him leaving and then coming back, and it's not weird for me. Cause you kind of, when you watch other companies, you tend to see once they leave WWE, you tend to see like, okay, what's going on, what they're doing, and you kind of check in with them every once in a while. But to see him come back and to see the beast that he has become is awesome. When you mentioned Triple H, I think that's a great comparison as far as, but I think that like he is a better version of Triple H. As far as I think he's, and I'm sure you would agree, he's way more athletic than Triple H is.
Yeah.
But for his mindset that he has for like the ring and how to work a match and just the mentality going into it and what he needs to do and how to tell a story, I think is right up par. Because if you're gonna mention people who are just, you know, mentally can work a match, Triple H, whether you like him or not, you know, he can tell a story. He's not the most athletic person, but he can tell a story and he works a match mentally. And I think that Drew does the same thing, and he's just got more athleticism and more power, and he's just a bigger beast of a person. So I think both these guys make for an excellent, that's because they're both athletic. I feel like obviously I keep uh I keep forgetting his name. I want to call he's not though. Uh who's running the Hurt Business?
MVP.
MVP. I think him working together with the Hurt Business and all that stuff. I think it's it reminds me of other factions and just kind of like a faction going against this one man, and I like those storylines, so I think it's going to be a great match. And yeah, so I definitely going to be in the Hell in a Cell though, so that's got to be happening there.
Definitely an interesting Monday Night Raw, as it was. A lot of things setting up to head towards Hell in a Cell, 3 weeks away. Let's move over to what I think is the most dominant brand in WWE, which is NXT. Between the writing and everything, great show this week. I don't think there was one match I was not disappointed in. I think the storytelling and the talent used on that show is phenomenal. Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Road Dogg, all producers, writers, creative on it. They're doing a fantastic job, and that's not to disregard all the other writers that are nobody names. You know, it's a team effort. Everyone does a great job to put this show together. Let's start with the first match of the night, which was to determine the number one contender for the NXT Championship, and that was O'Reilly, Gargano, and Dunn in a triple threat match. Fucking fantastic match, dude. Obviously, you know, Adam Cole comes out and, you know, he's all, you know, it's a great match on top of it. You know, these guys they all want the title match, but Adam Cole thinks he deserves the title match as well. Obviously, we just are fresh off a feud between him and Kyle O'Reilly. And I know Rob's a big O'Reilly fan as well. We've talked about that many times with the Undisputed Era. But it's looking like it's going to be a good thing. Later on the night, we did find out that they're going to be Karrion Kross is going to be defending the title in a fatal 5-way match at In Your House between O'Reilly, Gargano, Dunn, Cole. It's gonna be that's gonna be a good match. What do you guys think about this setup, man, for In Your House? I mean, this was a pay-per-view brought back. I believe WCW did it back in the day, right? In Your House, was that them?
No, it was WWF.
It was WWF. Okay.
Or the monthly pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they've brought back War Games. They've brought back In Your House, 2 iconic pay-per-views from back in the day. What do you guys think of this fatal 5-way match, man? I think this is honestly gonna steal the show, and NXT always steals the fucking show.
I think it easily could.
Yeah.
Like those 5, like I haven't seen as much from Cross because I haven't been watching NXT as closely.
Right.
Since he debuted. Just it worked out that way. And I haven't seen much of his indies work either.
Right.
I've seen a little bit, but just the other guys alone, like, I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. Those guys could make a great match. Like, they could wrestle a broomstick and make a great match.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, I get to watch them on WWE or NXT specifically, but like I've got to watch I call him Killer Cross and Joey Gargano. I've got to watch these guys live in person at indie shows, and every time I've left, these guys have always blown the roof off the building, whether there's 50 people in the crowd or 300 people in the crowd. These guys are amazing. So I could only imagine the epic event they're going to put on when they all get together and go. I'm excited for this match. I think it's going to be amazing. I think that it's going to be balls to the wall, and it will be probably the best match, bar none. For it, this could possibly be one of those like matches that we talk about for years. Like, hey, remember this match back in 2021 with all these guys? And it's like, oh yeah, I remember this and that. So I think all these guys can go. I think they're going to do a great job. I think they work really well together. And I love O'Reilly. This dude is amazing. I have nothing but praise for this guy. I think he's one of my favorite wrestlers right now. I've got to see him over in PWG when he was the champion for a few. I think he was the champion for like a year or so, but I love that guy. I think he just his mixture of as far as submissions and his striking is just second to none. I think he's awesome. And Gargano is amazing. He can just go. He's a wrestler at heart, and just all these guys are amazing. Killer Cross, I think this guy, something about him just reminded me. And there's nothing aesthetic or anything, but just the way he strikes people. It almost reminds me of like when Razor Ramon would lay chops into people. They were vicious chops, and I just got that sense from when I would watch Killer Cross wrestle. So overall, I think this match is gonna blow the roof off the place.
It's gonna be a good match, man. They're setting up a lot of good stuff for in your house. Another thing they're setting up too is the Ember Moon and Raquel Gonzalez feud, obviously with Dakota Kai and her tag team partner and everything. So it was a good thing. Ember Moon came out, cut an amazing promo, called out Raquel Gonzalez, and they were going to go at it for a little bit. They did until officials broke it up, and then Dakota Kai attacks Ember Moon from behind and kind of setting up that thing towards In Your House. So I'm thinking maybe we could see a championship match with Ember Moon and Raquel Gonzalez, being that her partner's out on injury for now, So we'll see what happens with that. I'm going to keep a close eye on that one. I mean, Ember Moon, since she debuted, has been one of my favorites. I think she's another great talent, and she's another very great in-ring performer. She can really sell. She can really she's athletically talented. Raquel Gonzalez too, for her size, fucking powerhouse, dude. She is amazing, dude. I've been keeping a close eye on her too since she won the title, and with that storyline and everything. I think she was also in this past year's War Games that they had, and that was just another fantastic fight with the women's War Games and everything. So that's gonna be a good one too. What do you guys think about that, man? That's gonna be, I think, it's looking good.
I like Ember Moon. I've liked Ember Moon since I saw her. I only really watched too much of her stuff when she got moved up to Raw, right. But like I like her. She's good in the ring.
I'm glad they brought her. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm glad they brought her back to NXT too.
Yeah, well, I think it was smart. Like, I mean, especially because like, didn't she have an injury or something, and she was
gone for some time? Yeah,
it was smart to put her back there because I mean that's a better fit for her, and especially during the pandemic,
right?
Like that, like especially how closed in it feels and everything, and you've got the mix of the Thunderdome style crowd, but you also have the live people. Like, it fits her style really well.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm about it.
What do you think, Rob?
No, I agree. I think actually, you guys already talked about as far as bringing Ember Moon back to NXT. Excellent choice, just because, and not to say like her style didn't fit the main roster, but I just think her style is more enhanced in NXT, and just all those women down there do a good job. It's hard for me to, everyone wants to make it to the main roster. That's where you get the big, the big lights and you get all the fireworks and everything that comes with being on the main roster. But I feel like a lot of these people thrive, especially the people that are like right now in NXT. I think NXT is the show. Like, they're the other shows get the time slot and they get the, whatever, the storylines, however that works. But NXT is the show for WWE right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. Jake Atlas, man, and LA Knight. Jake Atlas beat LA Knight. It's been an ongoing little storyline with Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. I thought it was kind of random that they brought him in out of nowhere because I remember tuning on NXT and I'm like, what the fuck is the $1 Million Man doing here? Guy hasn't been fucking wrestling in so long, and all of a sudden he's coming back in NXT. But I think it's big names like that really bring NXT's attention, a lot of people's attention to NXT as well. But that was, LA Knight, Ted DiBiase had a lot of faith in this kid and, him coming up and everything and kind of mentoring him and stuff. But then this past week, it looked like Ted DiBiase was just like, no, I don't think I could do it. That was a pretty good fight, though. LA Knight's just trying to prove to Ted DiBiase, like, I am what you say I am, but always fails to come through with that. So that was cool. Not much to really talk about on that one. Kushida versus Carmelo Hayes for the Cruiserweight title. Not a big fan of the Cruiserweight division, and it's not against them. It's just I've just never took interest in it. But
well, they've really watered it down too.
Yeah, but the talent on the Cruiserweight division is fucking phenomenal. But this match, I have to say, was a fucking great match. And afterwards, Kushida shaked Carmelo's hand, and it was a good sign of respect. Great fucking match, though. These guys always put on great matches. One match, the last two matches that we're going to talk about, I think really were show stillers for me as well, though, which was, I really like the way, for one, how NXT writes in the women's division. I think they do a great job on that. The Way versus Zoe Stark and Zeta Raymer, I think that's her name, in a non-title match. Fucking phenomenal match. I really like the way work together. They have good chemistry in ring. Same thing with Zoe Stark and Zeta. A lot of good just maneuvering, and the match just felt smooth from start to finish. Just a fucking solid match, man. What do you guys think about, the Way being tag team champions right now, and it's looking like, we're moving up into more in your house setup with them potentially giving Zoe Stark and Zendaya Raymer another shot at the titles?
This is the part of NXT that I'm not as familiar with.
Right.
Which ones are the Way?
Was it Candice LeRae, I think?
Yeah, Candice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she's with someone.
I mean,
again, these guys know more wrestling than I do. I'm still trying to figure out names and shit, but
the other girl she's with, I don't remember her name, but Candice is my girl.
But
solid.
Yeah, they did a good. Like I said, they did a good job selling this match, man. It was fucking great.
I think you kind of said it right off the bat, Anthony. The fluidity of this match. These ladies just they can wrestle, and when you can just see whether they're the popular ones or not, or they get pushed, but you can spot right off the bat when women can wrestle. And I mentioned Candice. I've been watching Candice since probably, I want to say 2013 or 2014. She is by far my favorite women's wrestler, like, ever. I think she's amazing. I think she can go. I watched her, do an indie match a long time ago, and I was just like, this is one of the best wrestlers I've ever watched. And I think what is amazing with NXT is they get women like her who just can go, like, and you see it. So I enjoy the product that they put on, and you could even, there are times you're watching an NXT show, and even sometimes on the main roster, where sometimes these women have better matches than the men, and they have the match of the night. And that's, to me, they've come so far, and I love watching them wrestle, especially when you get women who can go like these women can.
Those guys,
Absolutely.
they're amazing. I think the match though that stole the show this past Wednesday on NXT was MSK versus Legado del Fantasma, dude. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I think I did.
I did not realize that one of Legado's members was the former DJ Zima Ion.
Oh shit!
I didn't. I was like, why does he look familiar? Why there's something that was just like, why I can't quite put my finger on it. And then I looked up. I was like, oh shit!
Right.
Like it's nothing like he used to. I was like, all right, that's cool.
Dude, I have to say, man, MSK have been fucking dominating NXT tag team wrestling. Just the tag team division in general. They've been dominating, dude. And they've been doing great in-ring performers, too.
I had heard about them for quite a while before they came to NXT. Like, they had their run in Impact as the Rascals when they were 3-man team. They were all over the indies. I had heard of them. I saw a little bit of their stuff on Impact and clips and stuff like online and whatnot on YouTube. And I was just kind of like, eh. And whatever the episode they debuted on NXT, I was like,
right,
okay, these guys are good.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty high on them.
I mean, dude, I was watching this match this week, and just the way they move, the way they execute everything, it's like a fucking symphony. It's just like boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? Like till the very end of the match, I was like, and I'm so and so about tag team wrestling. Like I like it depending on who's wrestling. But most of the times I can skip over a match, but this one, like my eyes were glued to the fucking screen the entire time. Like I was just impressed, dude. These guys, for starters, all these guys too are most of the time they're high flyers too. So that's a fun aspect to see that kind of thing. But I was just fucking impressed. And this was an NXT Tag Team Championship match, so we had two titles defended that night, but they retained MSK still. NXT Tag Team Championship match, but I cannot wait to see what they do in the future because these guys fucking killed it.
Yeah, those guys are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like what I would like to see, and I know it's not gonna happen, but it's a pipe dream. I would love to see Alex Shelley come to NXT full time,
right,
and back up with Kushida, because I think with some of the tags with MSK and some of the other tags that they have in there, they could have some ridiculous matches.
Nice little triple threat ladder match for the titles, something like, you know what I mean, like something like that. Or what do you think, Rob? MSK, man. And
no, I mean,
I think
Tasma. Yeah, I think you guys kind of, I mean, I already hit on all these points that just they move really well in the ring. I think I'm trying to think how to express it, but just when you can go from move to move and spot to spot the way they do, it just shows like a certain level, like a step above kind of talent, because not everyone does that, and not everyone can do that. But I think this is not off topic, but just this makes me happy because I remember a few years back when I heard about WWE kind of going around and headhunting all these indie guys, and I was just like, man, they're gonna take all these guys that I love and they're gonna ruin them, but they've made the product so much better, and I'm glad we're getting this abundance of amazing talent where it's like every match you watch, especially and specifically, I'm speaking like NXT. Every match you watch is like, that's a great match. That's a great match.
Yeah,
that's a great match. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, man. I mean, NXT this week fucking killed it. So that is going to end part 1 of this podcast, because if we were to go on with SmackDown and AEW, we'd go on for like another hour and a half. So that's going to end part 1. Tune in tomorrow for part 2. We're going to talk SmackDown and AEW, and then next week we will organize this better so we can just highlight some stuff. But that's going to do it for this part 1 of episode 1. So tune in tomorrow for our part 2 for our SmackDown review and AEW fallout of Double or Nothing. And we'll see you guys real soon.